what I would say as I walked up, I said, you know, you'd have to ask, where in the world did Irma Williams come from? And you know, your answer would have to be only God can give her. She is a woman. Now, I'm going to tell you some things about Irma Williams, the friend, from the perspective of her peer. So, Aunt Irma, you know, always has plenty to say. And she and my mother would get on the phone and talk for hours. Now, you know, Irmette actually is somebody that passed on to Irmette, because Irmette can talk for hours on the phone as well. And I would just think, what in the world are they talking about? You know, they would share their insights on the scriptures, their spiritual journeys. I'm sure they talked about their kids as well. And I'm going to tell you, my mother was on her knees as much about me as Aunt Irma was on her knees about her children. So they shared that. I don't know if you also know another thing about Aunt Irma. She has a voracious appetite for all things spiritual and all things godly. She also has a voracious appetite for barbecue. And my mother, Christine, was a master barbecuer. She had a homemade barbecue pit made out of a barrel. And she could cook slabs and slabs of ribs and beef brisket by the tens of pounds. And Aunt Irma could eat those ribs and that brisket as long as it was coming. Now you look at me and you know I'm a healthy eater. But Aunt Irma surpassed me in every way. And you know, we just wondered, how in the world does she keep such a svelte figure the way she eats? Well, you know, it's her energy. That's really part of it. You know, some of what I was going to say about Aunt Irma, you know, my cousin Maggie took a little bit of my thunder. Because I was thinking, how do you describe this extraordinarily unique woman? And one thing that really comes to mind is she is a wonderfully independent-minded woman. More so than almost anyone I have ever known. Maggie talked about some of the things that Aunt Irma did. Aunt Irma has never really followed anybody other than God, I think, in her life. She sets the example. She does things that no one else has ever done that you or I know of, and does things that no one still has ever done. I mean, Maggie talked about the influence that she set for her kids by really having a world of wanderlust, an interest in all things world. Listen, I remember when I was a kid and heard that Aunt Irma was leaving her secure job as a teacher in the Kansas City Public School District to go and teach in Germany. Who had ever heard of that before? And she did. And then she comes back after having taught in Germany, and she starts a school from scratch. Truly an entrepreneur. Before we even knew what an entrepreneur was. You know, the other thing is, she has also been a leader in so many ways. She was a leader in starting the school. I mean, she has nurtured that school and done such a tremendous work throughout the entire. I want Aunt Irma to know her life story has been an inspiration to me, and I know it's been an inspiration to her children, and I would admit, I believe I have been an inspiration to others as well. So the impact she has is everlasting. It goes on and on. But one of the stories she talked about was when she was a student at Baker University. And I'm going to tell you, at the time, Aunt Irma, she is 90. Now, I did tell her when I saw her today, you know, I would need to see an affidavit from someone alive at the time who would be willing to attest to the fact that she is indeed 90 because she looks terrific. But when Aunt Irma was at Baker University, it's not hard to believe nearly 100 years ago now, Aunt Irma, I'm not trying to round up, but nearly a century ago, there weren't many young black girls, black women at Baker University at the time. Aunt Irma, were there any others than you?
There had been one there 45 years before.
45 years before.
Because her family lived in Baldwin County. And so they were kind of accepted as being the candidates. So she went there before I did.
Well, one of the stories that Aunt Irma told is that she was given two options of jobs she could have as a student there. One was to, I think, clean the bathrooms or do
Kitchen.
work in the kitchen. Okay. I know she would correct me, and I appreciate that. The other option, however, was to work in the library. And knowing her love and passion for learning, it's not hard to guess which she chose. But the students were contemptuous of her, this young black woman who was a student at Baker, and they were going to give her great, great difficulty. They would go to the front desk where Aunt Irma worked and ask her to go check out books which were in the farthest reaches, the bowels of the library, documents and books that nobody had ever looked at for decades and decades and decades. And she would dutifully bring them back to the front desk to provide them to the students. And they'd tell her, oh, that's all right, we don't need it. Oh, but we need something else. And she would do this repeatedly, sent on wild goose chases for no other purpose other than to humiliate her. But you know what? Aunt Irma wasn't humiliated. She turned that into a tremendous advantage. Because of all of those detours and frolics and endless chases that she had to do as a student, she learned that library and that system and all the resources available better than anyone else. And was therefore able to do the kind of research and papers that were really unsurpassed. She turned what would have been an adversity into a great benefit. And one of the things that really demonstrated, and one of the ways in which that inspired me, and I know her family as well, is that shows how much she believes in the power of character, which is overcoming adversity and learning through it. You know, we talked today about the concept of grit. Irma Williams had grit before grit was born.